Hi, my name's Alexandria, and in this group we have Imagine, Amber, and Nathan. Today we'll be presenting the Malay Archipelago, a vast group of islands in Southeast Asia. As you can see on the map, this region stretches between the India and Pacific Oceans and includes countries like Indonesia, the Philippines, Malaysia, Brunei, East Timor, and Singapore. It's the largest archipelago in the world with over 25,000 islands, each with its own unique geography and culture. Understanding its location is important because it sets the stage for how the nations, people, and environments interact across this region. With that in mind, let's move on to look at the individual nations and their capitals. The countries of Malay Archipelago and their capitals are Indonesia, the largest country in the region, with Jakarta as its capital. The Philippines with Malay, Malaysia with Kuala Lumpur, Benue with Bandar Seri Bengue, East Timor with Dulu, Singapore, which is both a city and a country, so its capital is Singapore, and Papua New Guinea, with Port Moresby. These capitals are key political, cultural, and economic centers for each nation. Now that we know the countries and capitals of the Malay Archipelago, let's look at its physical features like major landforms, rivers, lakes, and the climate. The Malay Archipelago has a variety of major landforms. There are mountains such as Mount Kinabalu in Malaysia and Puncak, Java, in Indonesia, as well as rainforests in Brunei and Sumatra, and hills and plateaus. The region is made up of many islands, including the Borneo, Java, and the Sumatra. In Indonesia and Luzon and Mindanao in the Philippines. There are also important rivers like the Puncak and the Kinyer rivers, as well as Rajang, Klang, Banteng, Baram, Sungi, and Sungi Kelantan rivers, which are vital for transportation, farming, and daily life. The climate in the region is mostly tropical and monsoon influences that create distinct rainfall patterns. Temperatures are generally warm, and the combination of land and climate supports incredible biodiversity, making the Malay Archipelago a rich and unique environment.
Major resource bases of the Malay Archipelago. The main exports for the Malay Archipelago are electronics, petroleum, agriculture products like coffee and rubber, as well as raw materials such as tin, iron, and gold. Listed below are the main exports of major countries in the Malay Archipelago. Malaysia produces electronics for computers, petroleum, and agricultural products. Brunei is a major exporter of petroleum products and has become a small but wealthy country. It has the 7th highest GDP per capita in the world. Indonesia focuses on mineral fields such as coal, petroleum, and natural gas. They also produce iron and coffee. The Philippines also produces electronics and is heavily into agriculture, such as palm oil and rubber. Timor-Leste produces petroleum and coffee as their main export. The total population of the Malay Archipelago is 380 million people. Much of this population is centered around 3 islands. Java, Indonesia has 156 million people and is the most populated island in the world. Sumatra, Indonesia has 60 million people, and Luzon in the Philippines has 64 million people. Many islands are sparsely populated, with over 7,000 islands being uninhabited. 2 of the largest islands in the archipelago have relatively low populations compared to smaller islands like Java, with Borneo having only 23 million people and New Guinea having 15 million people. This is due to heavy rainforests and rugged terrain covering the islands, making them difficult to develop on. Many of the countries within the archipelago are highly populated. Indonesia has 283 million people, making it the 4th most populated country in the world, and the most populated country in the region. The Philippines has 115 million people, Malaysia has 35 million, Papua New Guinea has 10 million, Singapore has 6 million, and Timor-Leste has 1 million people. Both Indonesia and the Philippines hold the largest cities in the region, with Jakarta, Indonesia having 33 million people within its metropolitan area, and Manila in the Philippines having 13 million inhabitants. Both of those cities are the capital cities of their respective countries. Other large metropolitan areas are Surabaya, Indonesia with 9 million people, Bandung, Indonesia with 8 million, Davao in the Philippines with 3 million, and Cebu in the Philippines with 3 million people.
Colonization of Malay Archipelago, the CR Empire, which ran the 7th and 13th centuries, and the Marpi Empire, which ran the 13th and 16th centuries of Indonesia, had rule and had major power in this region. These empires were wealthy in spice trade, being positioned in between the Indian and Pacific Oceans, gave the Sari Empire on the island of Sumatra a big hand in trade as they controlled key sea routes such as the Strait of Malacca, linking them with traders such as India, China, and the Middle East. They were also the center of Buddhism and the spread of Buddhist culture throughout the region. In the 13th century, a Marpi Empire from the island of Java rose to rule. They were one of the most powerful empires in Asia. They were known for being ahead in agriculture, in literature, trade, and also for maintaining a society with blended reasons such as Hinduism, Buddhism, and local trades, crowning this era as the Golden Age in Indonesian history. In the 1500s, Europeans arrived seeking control over the profitable spice trade. Portuguese were the first to establish this trade. The Spanish controlled in the Philippines, introducing and establishing Christianity, and the British took control over parts of Malaysia and Brunei. These colonial powers changed the region in many ways and also sparked resistance in the national movements. In the 20th century, the people across Malay began to fight for independence, and after World War II, Indonesia declared independence in 1945, the Philippines in 1946, and Malaysia in 1957. Malay and Indonesian is widely spoken in Malaysia, Indonesia, Brunei, and Singapore. In these same regions, Islam is the most dominant taught religion. In Java and Indonesia, Javanese is one of the main largest ethnic languages. Tagalog or Filipino is the national language of the Philippines. English, which is also commonly used in the Philippines, is as well used in Malaysia, Singapore for education, businesses, and government purposes. Mandarin, Hokkien, and Cantonese are spoken at a large Chinese communities in Malaysia, Singapore, and Indonesia. In these same communities, Buddhism and Hinduism is taught religiously, mainly in Bali, Indonesia. Christianity is another major faith in the Philippines and parts of the eastern Indonesia, like East Timor. Culture, social customs, folklore, music, and dances. The Malay is one of the most culturally diverse regions in the world, including countries like Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, Brunei, East Timor, the Papua New Guinea, and much more. It's home to hundreds of ethnic groups, and family community ties are deeply valued and important for these people and communities in this region. Some examples are respecting your elders, bowing, using polite gestures and body language, never saying no directly, but shaking your head and nodding yes. Folklore, there are old tales and stories that people tell throughout their communities in time and history. There is one popular one known as the Malay King Kong, which is the son who turned into stone for disobedience. Traditional instruments include the gamelan, which resembles gongs in Indonesia, and the katentang, which is toned gongs in the Philippines.
Now that we've talked about culture, social customs, folklore, music, and dances, we can dive into political structures, organizations, and issues. As there is a diverse region with other countries, there is going to be an overlap in issues. In Malay Archipelago, there is a rise of conservative policies and unresolved territory issues. Malaysia rules under a monarch, and the Philippines rules with a president and bicameral legislation, which is similar to the United States. Ranging from the world's third largest democracy in Indonesia to the Islamic monarchy in Brunei, they still face things like corruption, religious tensions, separatist movements, etc. For example, the Association of Southeast Asian Policies, with its head chair Malaysia, is currently in dispute with China over regions. ASEAN helps countries collaborate on environmental issues, economy, and cultural exchange. The Brunei, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines East Asian Growth Area aim to boost trade and infrastructure in less developed parts of the archipelago.
Corruption plays a big part in the Malay Archipelago, more specifically Indonesia, Malaysia, and the Philippines. More recently, there has been a major flooding occurring in the Philippines. While millions of taxpayer money is going towards the funding for rebuilding infrastructure and more stable infrastructure, there hasn't been much change. There has been wasted funds/contracts, which has made the Filipino people very angry at these rich politicians and contractors, as well as their families. Many have argued that all these funds have been used to pay for these expensive lifestyles, as there has been many backlash to the young family members on social media. They are seen often flaunting their rich life expenses while the Filipino people suffer and their livelihoods ruined from the flooding. This ties into economic equality in the labor system, as many citizens struggle with poverty, especially migrant workers. Grassroots movements take rise against this corruption. At the top left, there's an image about the flooding in the Philippines, and the signs read "End Corruption, Start Accountability." And in the bottom, in Indonesia, the sign translates to this, and this shows the religious tensions mixed with the politics and how the conservative versus liberal movements are on the rise. And this video will show an example of what's happening in the Philippines and the corruption.
The Philippines is eating the rich right now because of political corruption, and they're specifically going after the children of said politicians because these kids are the ones that are flaunting the wealth that their parents gained through political corruption, because the Philippines is quite literally underwater right now, and it has become so commonplace that people are now becoming unfazed, carrying on with their wedding while their churches are literally flooded. I mean, do you know how many times this has to happen for you to get used to it and just say, hey, we're just gonna have the wedding anyway? Even though the Filipino government is allegedly spending billions to try to keep flooding from happening. For instance, the other week, the Philippine president, Ferdinand Marcos Jr., to this town of Baliwag, which is just north of Manila, and you can see that there's this river that flows through it that dumps into the Manila Bay, and it floods all the time, so much so that the government decided to invest 55 million pesos, which is an equivalent to about 1.24 million US dollars, to build a 220-meter river wall, which would have stopped the flooding. And official paperwork from the Public Works stated that at the end of June that the project was completed. And when President Marcos arrived into town on August 20th, he found that there was no wall and there was nothing but a field where the water was getting dangerously close to the houses made of wood. Or this other flood wall in Lucena City that just cracked and collapsed earlier this month after it cost the government over 100 million pesos, or roughly about $2 million, to build. So when you have people like Sarah and her husband Carly Descaya, who own a couple of these construction companies, one of which that had a 96 million peso contract, so roughly about 1.96 million US dollars, to build one of these flood mitigation structures, and when the president of the country goes to Bulacan to visit this project that was allegedly completed earlier this year and finds a wall that is barely started and clearly abandoned, right after Sarah Descaya just made a vlog showing off her brand new Mercedes Maybach, Rolls-Royce, Bentley, and Porsche, where she basically states, oh my god, I bought this Rolls-Royce because it has an umbrella in the door. Or people like Claudine Coe, whose father also owns construction companies, who also received those flood contracts, is making videos flaunting her brand new Mercedes G-Wagon with custom interior, having such a hard time trying to figure out which one of daddy's credit cards to pay for gas with. Just a quick reminder, G-Wagon's base cost is almost $150,000. Or Jamie Cruz, who loves to flaunt her Chanel bags, when her father has secured over 3.5 billion pesos, or roughly 71 million US dollars worth of flood contracts. Again, while the rest of the country is literally drowning underwater. And while the outrage quite isn't at Indonesia levels yet, it's so crazy to me that they're still posting, flaunting their wealth. I mean, this was posted by Claudine just less than 8 hours, as if they've never seen what happens when a government flaunts their wealth while their people are literally struggling to survive.
Now we can talk about economic organization, level of development, and economic development issues. Singapore is highly wealthy with advanced infrastructure and advanced technology, while Brunei has their wealth from oil. Indonesia, Malaysia, and the Philippines are all similar as they are growing middle-income countries. However, they once again struggle with misuse of public funds, corruption, poverty, and economic inequality. East Timor and Papua still rely on foreign aid as well as the agricultural aspects. Asia tries to help with shared growth and trade, but the issues of urban-rural inequality and environment underweigh many of their efforts. Social form and social issues. Family, community, and religion are all very important social organizations across this region. Indonesia focuses on traditional leaders and Islamic organizations, Malaysia focusing on ethnics. In the Philippines, religious tensions often occur between the Muslim and Christians in the Philippines, as well as ethnic problems between the Chinese, Indians, and Malay in Malaysia. With these ethnic problems, there have been segregation as well as income differences between the ethnicities. Urbanization and migration have created social inequalities with overcrowded cities and slums in Jakarta, Manila, and Kuala Lumpur. Gender inequality, limited healthcare/education, and youth unemployment are all pressing matters as well as in East Timor. That has been our presentation about Malay Archipelago. We hope you guys enjoyed our presentation and learned very interesting facts, and this is helpful about learning about Malay Archipelago. Thank you for watching and listening.